Hi, this is Misha, and in this video we're going to do another comparison between a Russian gun and a Czechoslovakian gun. In the past we've compared the AK47 and AKM to the Vz.58. We've also compared the SKS to the Vz.52 rifle and the Tokarev TT33 to the Vz.52 pistol. Moving forward in time, we're going to compare the Russian Makarov PM to the Czechoslovakian Vz.82. Both are chambered for a 9x18 cartridge, although the Czech gun was a little different. This isn't really a history video in detail on the Russian Makarov, but as always we have to kind of talk about it a bit. After World War II, it was felt that the Tokarev pistol was getting dated, and it was. The safety features were a bit lacking. It was single action only. And 7.62 25 Tokarev, while good in some aspects, was not so good in others. It was also maybe a little more expensive than they were hoping. So in the late 40s, they started looking into manufacturing a smaller, cheaper, lighter gun. And ultimately they selected to develop a cartridge that dates back to World War II Germany, the 9mm Ultra. The whole 9mm Ultra project was to develop as powerful a round as possible that could still be fired out of a direct blowback pistol. This was done mostly by the Luftwaffe, kind of to replace guns like the PPK firing 7.65 Browning 32, basically to give the same gun but more oomph. In 1949, this gun here, the Makarov, went into limited production at Czech, and it was selected after trials and went into production in 1951, but it was a relatively low priority. They didn't produce them in huge numbers in the beginning, because in 51 they were making the SKS, they were working on the AK, they had other designs coming in, and the pistol was given a relatively low priority. That said, by the 60s, this had more or less replaced the Tokarev in most of Russia, including with the police. Russia encouraged its COM-bloc allies to adopt the Makarov, and Bulgaria, East Germany, China did. And it really was insistent that they at least adopt the 9x18 cartridge. Czechoslovakia, always doing their own thing and having quite a bit of disagreement with Russia in the 60s, and really just having adopted the Vz.52 and 7.62 Tokarev, resisted for a long time. But by the late 1970s, a few things happened. One, the Vz.52, as we talked about in that video, was not a great design. It had issues, it was kind of high demanding on maintenance, so on and so forth. And also Russia continued to put pressure. So this gun came out. They did develop finally a gun for 9x18, but because Czechoslovakia did its own thing, they did their own thing. They took the 9x18 round, they lightened the bullet, and they increased the powder charge, giving it roughly a 20% greater yield. And that's what the Vz.82 was chambered for, although of course it'll fire standard Soviet spec PM rounds as well. So let's look at some of the details of these guns. Both are simple blowback based on kind of the PPK system. Nothing fancy there. Makarov has an external slide release. It is single and double action. The Vz also has an external release and is single double action. The safety is on the side of the slide here. It is PPK style. It also doubles as a decocker. The Vz.82, on the other hand, has a Browning style safety You cannot engage it with the hammer forward. You have to pull the hammer back, and it does not act as a decocker. But it is, on the other hand, ambidextrous. Magazine, the Makarov has a heel-mounted release. Has these 8-round mags. Simple. Vz takes that a step further. We have a Browning style release, and it too is ambidextrous, kind of a push button style. Reminds me of a lot what you see on the later guns, like say the Walther P88. And you notice the mag is considerably different. This is a double stack single feed holding 12 cartridges, so it has 50% higher capacity, and it has a more conventional release. Both do have lanyard loops, one on the base here. The Makarov is on the grip, literally. This is a single piece wraparound grip, very PPK style. This actually uses grip panels with a back strap. Sights, Makarov has very standard military sights with the ridge on top. The 82 has a little bit taller dot sights with a larger ridge on top. Makarov is about 6.5 inches long, has about a little over 3.8 inch barrel, and weighs about 26 ounces. 82 is about 6.8 inches long, a little bit longer, but it still has a 3.8 inch barrel. Actually, it's just a teensy hair shorter than the Makarov barrel. And we weigh 28 ounces. So it's only a little bit more, mostly for the wider frame, for the larger magazine. Disassembly is the same, more or less. The Makarov takes the PPK style with the spring-loaded trigger guard. Vz is just a smidgen different. It is a trigger guard, but you cannot pull it down with the mag in. Take it out. You can pull your trigger guard down. It's not spring-loaded. It has a detent, and then it disassembles much the same. So which is better? In a lot of ways, the Vz, but not in all. And to be fair, it's a much newer design as well. 30 years plus newer. The Makarov is a very simple, very economical to produce gun. It only has about 26 parts, many of which do double duty. It's pretty much all steel. And virtually indestructible. Magazine is durable and also cheap to replace if damaged. The Bakelite grips are easy to replace. They're just held on with a single screw. It is elegantly simple and dependable and relatively cheap to manufacture. Ergonomics are okay. There are worse guns. Trigger is, again, okay. It's a military trigger. This one's smooth. The Russian ones tend to be, but nothing spectacular. Again, the sights are just very standard combat sights. The 82, on the other hand, has better sights. They're still military. Trigger's wider. It's also a little smoother. Still a combat trigger, but a better trigger. This also uses polygonal rifling. It was really the first to do it, which has pros and cons. And it does fire a hotter round. Again, most people find the grip more ergonomic. They like the double stack magazine. On the other hand, this consists of many more parts. Anyone who's ever tried to field strip or even take one down for, say, a refinishing job knows how many small pins, springs, detents, and other mysterious things are in this gun. So it is more engineered, it has more parts than the Makarov, which, you know, you take away a little simplicity, you know, you can introduce some problems. While I do like the larger spur hammer, which is also smoother than the Makarov, I actually prefer the Makarov's safety. Now, the placement of this safety is fine, and I like that it is ambi, but the fact that you cannot safe the gun while the hammer is forward on a double action gun is a little bit to me. I know it has internal safety, but still. It would have been nice if you could at least turn the safety on with the hammer forward, or if it would act as a decocker. And of course, this costs more to produce. It's worth pointing out this is one of the first nearly completely ambidextrous guns to be adopted for standard service by military. The mag release and the safety are ambi. The only thing that isn't is the slide release. That's a relatively minor control, to be fair. These would see service by the Czech military, of course, but also by police, and they would remain in production for a long time and are still in limited service today, although they finally kind of started to be phased out. I'd say the final indication that the Czechs were onto something was actually this from Russia. This is a civilian version, but this is a good representation of the Makarov PMM, wherein Russia did pretty much the same thing that the Czechs did with the Vz.82. They went to a larger 12-round mag, double stack, single feed. One neat feature of the Russian gun, it can still feed from the short 8-round mags. But more importantly, they went to a hotter cartridge with this. They claimed 25% warmer. Some sources say 15, but either way, they went to a lighter bullet with a larger charge behind it to increase the yield. They also went to a fluted chamber because of this. So obviously they were kind of copying the Czech gun, because this didn't really come out until 1990. Now, this was never really adopted in Russia, at least not en masse. Some special forces used it and some police, but it came so late in the Soviet Union that it never really went anywhere. So the closest we can really get are these civilian versions sent over to America in the early 90s. You can tell them because of their adjustable sight. They are built on military frames, which is interesting because they're phosphated, Parkerized, but then they have the kind of the civilian blued slide with the adjustable sights on them. And I've got a full video on that. So, which is better? It's really hard to say. It's kind of a draw. I think the Makarov wins for simplicity and durability and reliability, also cost. But the CZ wins thanks to better ergonomics, higher capacity, better sights, and being ambidextrous. I like the Makarov for its history. It's just hard to top a gun with this much history in it. But the CZ was not available for so long in America. These started to come over in 2005 as surplus because two things kind of coincided. The Czech Republic started to retire a large number, but also the U.S. assault weapons ban had expired in late '04, which let them come over with 12-round mags. Before that, the limit would have been 10, and I guess the people over in Czech just didn't want to mess with trying to limit the mag and keep the reliability. Some of these were sent over to the U.S. before the ban as the Vz.83, and these could be in .380 as well as .32 caliber. Makarovs were sent over not only in 9x18, but there's also a commercial version in .380. So both have been commercially available in the US. So that's my comparison. I think both have pros and cons. If I only had to have one, it would definitely be the Makarov for its history and just, bulletproof, bomb-proof even. But the CZ really shows how elegant a Makarov gun can be, and since these are CNR, a lot of folks have picked them up for either range fun or even carry guns because they're not terribly big and heavy, and they've been very inexpensive, including spare magazines. They're not quite as easy to find now in 2018 as they once were, but they're still findable. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, please post them below as always. If you liked the video, we'd appreciate a click there for like. And if you'd like to help support the channel, please check out our Patreon page. And if you have not, you might check out our previous videos in this series comparing other Russian and Czech guns. Because it's quite interesting to see how Czechoslovakia kind of did its own thing. And of course, CZ is a very famous arms manufacturer to this very day. This is Misha, and we'll catch you next time.